This is Next Steps for Seniors with your host, Wendy Jones. Each week, Wendy brings resources and information to help guide you through those next steps with elderly parents and loved ones. You can follow, subscribe, and share on your favorite podcast platform. If you have questions or topic suggestions for Wendy,
hello and welcome to Next Steps for Seniors Conversations on Aging. I'm your host, Wendy Jones, and as you all know, I love talking about the things that nobody else really wants to have a discussion about. And one of those topics is keep the memories, not the stuff. And we are extremely blessed to have Jeannine Bryant with us in our studio today because the reality is she's an expert at this. And why? Because she's published 3 books, one of which is called Keep the Memories, Not the Stuff, and owns a company called Changing Spaces in Nebraska. Is that right, Jeannine?
That's right. Yep.
Yeah. So thank you for being with us today. We are blessed to have you on the program.
Oh, thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah. You just have a passion for this, don't you?
I do. I love it. I mean, I have goosebumps right now. I feel very blessed. I feel like this is really the place where my skills and my interest really align, and there's a need for it in the world. And so I love doing this kind of work.
You and me both. I can tell we're like sisters from another mother. I'm just saying, because the reality is, we're all going to age, number one. Mm-hmm. Yep. And the longer we live, the more stuff we have.
Right.
And yes. If you saw my basement right now, you'd be like, oh, sister, we got some work to do. So we need you. We need you to help us. We need you to give us some education. So your education program is called Easy Right Sizing. Is that correct?
That's right. Yep. And then I have a whole website, easyrightsizing.com.
Okay. Well, let's go. Tell us.
Yeah. Well, it's funny you say that because this book that I wrote, Keep the Memories, Not the Stuff, the first line in it says that we all are going to die eventually and our stuff must go somewhere. Right? I mean, that is the brutal reality of it, right? None of us are getting out of here alive. Mm-mm. And all of the items that we have collected throughout our lifetime will need to go somewhere. And sometimes I inquire people to think about loved ones you have lost maybe several years ago, maybe grandparents or a great grandparent if you knew them, and someone who's been dead for a couple decades. Where is all of their stuff now? And hopefully the answer is not in your basement in boxes, right? I mean, if I think about my grandparents' house, they died in the early 90s, right? Where is all of that stuff? The brutal reality is that a lot of it is in the dump. Okay. And we don't like to think about that. That's an unpleasant truth, but, our stuff has to go somewhere. And when someone passes away or if they move, you can't sell the house, or if you're renting the home, you have to continue paying rent until that home is empty. And right. So at some point, we're all going to be emptying out a house, and we all have to confront the possessions that we've accumulated in this lifetime.
Yes. And I'll tell you, I don't know if you run into this, but I actually would say 10 to 15% of the families we work with are actually hoarders. Yeah. We see the problem more often than not. And there's not just stuff, there's excessive stuff. Mm-hmm. And the thought of getting rid of all of it is so overwhelming, not just for that situation, but for everybody.
Yes.
So I love that. Yeah.
We've been moving older adults here in Nebraska through my company for 17 years, and we've worked with probably 10 hoarders throughout that time. And it's fascinating because in every single situation, there was some kind of trauma event that sort of spurred this on. And most of the time it was the death of someone close. Oftentimes it's a child, or sometimes it's a spouse. I'm certainly not a trained psychologist, but it's easy to see that it is a way that they are trying to exert control over an uncontrollable world, right, by their stuff. And it's not just, sometimes they are those really kind of dirty houses that you see on that show, Hoarders on TV, but right. Other times it's just people who have plenty of money and they just spend it, right? Or they meet, unfortunately, like a salesperson, like a Mary Kay lady who takes mm-hmm. advantage, and now there's, 50 years worth of Mary Kay products right. in the bathroom. And that is, and my message is always that it's really hard to make someone get rid of things before they really want to. And sometimes if that is your family member, unfortunately, sometimes you're just going to have to wait until they have passed away. And then but that burden is still going to fall to you. I mean, someone's going to have to empty that house out before it can be sold. And it's going to take a lot of time, energy, and sometimes money to do that.
So give us some real life tactics of what, some ideas that we can be doing. Obviously, the website that you created, the program, is there a charge for that? Do they have a link? How does it work?
Absolutely. Yeah. At easyrightsizing.com, I've got lots of free resources. There's lots of blog articles and videos, and downloadable worksheets on that website. And then that's also where I sell my books, and I developed an online course as well that, is paid for, that you can take. And it's over 3 hours of video content that walk folks through the process of downsizing and moving. Now, if folks are overwhelmed at just the prospect of going through their stuff, whether they're moving or not, even if you're staying in one spot, but you feel like, okay, I need to downsize. And I like to use the term right size.
I agree.
It's finding that perfect place between too much and too little. I'm not asking anyone to become a minimalist if that's not what they want, but I think most of us can agree that it's pretty common to have more stuff in our homes than we need, use, or want. And so that's where the clutter aspect comes in. And if you don't know where to start, my tip is always just to start with a tour of your house. Start at the top. If it's a 2-story home or whatever, start at the top of the house. Start, way on the left side of the house, go in that room and work top to bottom, left to right. Open every drawer, cupboard, closet, look on every shelf. And I'm not asking you to do anything, just look and become aware of what is in your home. Because a lot of the folks that I work with have been in their homes for decades, right? They've lived there for 20, 30, 40, sometimes even longer. And I think that so often our stuff tends to compound and we might not even know what is in our homes. Right. And I often see this with the male clients that I work with. I mean, and that was my own family's experience, right? Like I grew up on a farm. My dad's a farmer. The house was my mom's domain and the farm was his. He had no clue what was in our house. Right. So just taking a tour and identifying, okay, what are some trouble spots or what are some areas that we've forgotten about completely, some things that are accumulating that we are not using, we don't need, and we don't love. That's the low-hanging fruit, the easy stuff to get rid of.
Well, what funny story, I call them my hot spots. And I have quite a few of those hot spots in my house. Yeah. So once you identified these hot spots or whatever you're going to call them, do you rank them and then say, okay, so we're going to start, the biggest one is this one, the family room magazine rack or whatever.
Yes.
And then you tackle it.
Absolutely. You have to start somewhere. So once you identify those hot spots, then, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. This is not going to just happen in one weekend. So identify with one of those hot spots, maybe the one that feels easiest to you or least sentimental to you.
Well, and I feel like I need to do the easiest so that I feel like satisfaction that I actually got something done.
Yeah. You got to have that win because otherwise it just feels like, okay, I'm doing this thing that's hard and I'm not seeing any progress. So absolutely, you have to get a win. And I don't know if you've ever experienced this, but when I clean out a space, I just find myself looking at it when I walk by and just enjoying like, oh, look how good that closet
is. Because you're proud. Yes, I agree.
Even if no one else in the family notices, it makes me feel good.
Doesn't matter.
Yep.
So I like your idea. I mean, this is all great stuff. And do you set goals for yourself? Like what other tactics do you use? Okay.
Anytime I have to do anything that I don't want to do. Now, decluttering is easy for me because there's nothing I'd rather do. I love decluttering. Okay. So it's not hard to get me to declutter, but boy, getting on that treadmill, it's hard for me to get on that treadmill.
Okay. I'm opposite. I could get on the treadmill. I cannot declutter. Oh my God.
Okay, there you go. So I set a timer, right? I say, okay, 20 minutes. I'm going to start in for 20 minutes and then see how I feel. Okay. So set a goal. But I think it's always going to take longer than you think it's going to take. And so it can be kind of defeating to say like, I'm going to get through this afternoon. I'm going to go through that closet. It might take more than one afternoon. And so just say, I'm going to work on this for at least 20 minutes every day. Okay. I can commit to, if folks are retired, they can do it during the day. If you're still working, you can probably find 20 minutes in the evening to start going through that. 20 minutes a day times 7 days. That's a lot of progress that you can make over that week. And I often say, you're just pulling stuff out that you don't need, use, or want. And you can't just pull the stuff out and make piles. You actually have to do something with those piles, right? So pulling the stuff out is the first step, but then getting that stuff out of your house is the second step.
And how do you recommend doing that the best way?
Well, you have to decide what's going to be most effective and efficient for you. So I often caution people against keeping too much stuff for a future someday garage sale. Okay. If you are going to have a garage sale, put that date on the calendar and stick to it, and then commit to yourself. Anything that you schlep out there onto your driveway and sell, whatever
is not coming back in the house.
That's right. It goes one way.
Yep.
What might be easier and more efficient to you is to find a donation spot that is convenient for you or that you feel good about. Okay.
Yeah. Really quick. I agree with the donation spot. We're going to take a quick break and be back in a minute because these tips are exactly what we need. You're listening to Next Steps for Seniors, Conversations on Aging.
Hi, I'm Wendy Jones, host of Next Steps for Seniors, Conversations on Aging podcast. Did you know that over 25 million Americans experience bladder leaks? Incontinence can happen to anyone at any time. And when it does, incontinence products are a necessity. But it can cost hundreds of dollars per month to purchase these products, which is why we're partnering with Airflow Urology to help you. Airflow Urology provides medical-grade incontinence care essentials like adult briefs, male guards, catheters, and more for free through your insurance. With Airflow, your favorite bladder control supplies are sent right to your doorstep with discreet monthly deliveries. Customers have reported close to $200 a month in savings with Airflow Urology, and over 2 million people have trusted Airflow. You can verify your insurance benefits by going on and filling out a quick 2-minute form. Check your eligibility. Visit airflowurology.com. That's AEROFLOW urology.com.
Welcome back to Next Steps for Seniors, Conversations on Aging. So grateful to be with all of you today, and even more grateful for our guest, Jeannine Bryant, because she is helping me personally. In case you like to hold on to things because you, for some reason, think you're going to wear it again, use it again, then this show is for you. Our topic is keep the memories, not the stuff. And I think as we age, there's so many memories associated with everything that we just want to hang on to everything. So you were talking in the last segment about, basically needs, uses, and wants. Mm-hmm. And then the things that we don't need to go. So tell us, there's a lot of memories associated with some of this stuff. Give us some tactics, because it's so hard sometimes to just get rid of things.
Yeah. So there's two different kinds of things I think that we have in our homes that we can get rid of. Okay. And so first of all, there's those items that are practical that can really be put to good use by someone else. And even if those items have memories tied up in them, it really helps to think about, okay, I'm not using this item, but someone else in my community could be. So let's get this item out of my house and think about who else I can bless with my excess, right? Do I need 12 different winter coats? No, I could probably get by with 4. 4 is probably more than enough, right? But just think about all these other people in my community who could be putting these things to good use. So that's a helpful technique for donating some of those practical items. Now, letting go of some of the items that maybe are not as practical, they can't be put to use by someone. Earlier before we started recording, we were talking about baby clothes and things that we save from our children or artwork that we save after our children have grown. Those are things that we're holding on to because it brings back warm, fuzzy, happy memories to us, right? And that's the whole point of a keepsake. We keep it for keepsake. We keep it because it makes us happy. However, it's hard to love something if it's in a box. So my tip for keepsakes is to keep only things that you can either use or display, because we want those items to be a part of our life so that they bring up those happy memories on a regular basis, not sitting downstairs in a cardboard box. Okay. And so to really limit those items that we're keeping and that aren't on display somewhere. Okay.
I like that. That's really good. Use or display. And if you can't do one of those two things, it probably should go.
Probably. And also to set a limit for your space. Okay. So there are some things that we all keep that maybe we won't. Okay. I have maybe 2 onesies from each of my kids. Okay. My kids are not grown yet, but they're 14 and 11. Okay. Mm-hmm. So I have those onesies, and no, they're not in a shadow box on my wall, but they're in a box. Okay. And in our basement, we have one storage room, and I've got one tub for those things. So to me, I've limited it to one box. Now, someday when I am 75 or 85 years old and I downsize to a retirement community, that's my target market that I think about. That box is not going to come with me. And I'm well aware of that, but I'm keeping it for now, but I probably won't keep it forever. And that's okay. Right. Okay. And because our attachment to things does fade over time. If you think about, I think some of the hardest keepsakes to let go of are those keepsakes that you inherit from someone who has passed away, right? We have keepsakes that we keep for ourselves or for our children. But what happens when a parent dies and you have their items? A sibling dies, your spouse dies. Those are some of the hardest items to let go of for a wide array of reasons. We feel afraid that we're going to forget some of those happy memories. We feel guilty for letting go of those things. How many times have you heard someone say, oh, my mother loved these dishes. I can't get rid of those. I really should keep them. Okay, there's a lot of guilt associated in those statements. Because if those keepsakes are things that bring you joy and that mean a lot to you, then absolutely you should keep it. But I want you to examine those things that you're keeping that kind of bring you down, that you don't actually love, but someone else loved, and now they've passed away and you feel like, well, I can't get rid of it. There's a fine line there between keeping things that are going to be meaningful to you versus things that were meaningful to someone else. And to really internalize, I talk about this in my book, Keep the Memories, Not the Stuff. Internalize the idea that our memories are in us and not in our stuff. And internalize the idea that stuff and memories and love are 3 separate things. They are not the same thing. And so if, God forbid, you experienced a house fire and you lost everything in your house, you would not suddenly forget all of your memories of your grandparents or of your parents. You wouldn't suddenly love your grandparents or miss your grandparents any less, right? Because the stuff was not associated with the memories or with the love. And once you really internalize that, letting go of some of that stuff becomes a lot easier. And again, I'm not saying don't keep any keepsakes. I'm saying limit it to stuff you can use or display. And then you get to decide maybe 1 or 2 boxes of things you're not using or displaying that, live in a closet somewhere.
So here's my question. So you are 85 years old and you're moving into a senior living community and you want to hand some stuff off to your family.
Yeah.
Tell us your advice, because sometimes you've got china that you've used your whole life and it means so much to you and you want to give it to your daughter and your daughter doesn't want it. Tell us some tips or advice of what you think about it.
My kids don't want my stuff. I hear that all the time. And you're right. Your kids don't want all of your stuff, but they do want some things. Okay. But a very limited amount of things because their homes are full as well. Right. And so they don't want to live in a museum of stuff, a museum dedicated to you. And so my tip is to think proactively and to use upcoming holidays to your advantage. Okay. So think about the next holiday gathering you're going to have. Maybe right now it's summertime. Maybe if you're going to all be gathered together for 4th of July, you make a box right now for each one of your kids and you start putting maybe some meaningful things in that box, just one box. Okay. Not 5 boxes per kid.
And a smaller box. Yeah.
A smaller box, right? And if they are keepsakes that mean something, maybe it's a vase that came over on the boat from Norway with your great grandmother. Okay. And you would like your son to have this vase. Write out why it's important, where it came from, how old you think it is. and then put it in that box. And then when they come over, you look them deep into their eyes, squeeze out a tear if you can, and say, it means so much to me to give you this box of keepsakes, as the things that I can't take with me because I'm downsizing. Okay. Yep. And so then, if what you want to give to your daughter is a full 18 place setting of china, then that's your one box. Okay. You can't expect her, if she takes that, she's not going to take anything else.
Basically, you're saying choose your battles. Like, you can't empty your whole house into their house, but you can pick specific things and ask them, hey, this is important to me. I would really love you to have it. Yep. And a lot of times I say, if it's that important, just take it.
Right.
Worst case scenario, they don't need to know what's happening with it after, because I've had people regret that they didn't take something. Their parent passes away and they're like, man, I wish I would have. Mm-hmm. So don't woulda, coulda, let's just do it. Just do it. And then worst case scenario, you can move on and do something else with it. So Jeannine, I would love you to share your information. I think you bring so much value to this program that you have. And I know that our listeners right now are like, okay, let's do this. So share with us about your books, any information that you can give so we can be better organized and have less stuff.
Absolutely. Yes. Well, head on over to my website, easyrightsizing.com. That's where everything is housed. And like I said, there's lots of videos and articles. There's some great downloadable worksheets on that website that will help you with all kinds of things like family conversations or a packing list for older adults who are moving to a retirement community, what to keep when someone dies. There's all kinds of information on there. And then my 3 books that I have published, they are all also available on easyrightsizing.com. And then I developed an online course for anyone who is going through that process of downsizing and moving out of a home they've been in for decades and moving to a retirement community. Unless you're in the Nebraska area, I can't help you myself. But boy, if you take my online course, I will be with you every step of the way. It's over 3 hours of content, and it'll help make your move a lot easier. And for your listeners, I've got a 25% off coupon. And so if you use the code NEXTSTEPS4 seniors, you'll get 25% off that online course.
And when they go online, they just enter that right in when they're making their purchase?
That's right. Yep.
Okay. And what does the course run? Can you give us an idea of the pricing on it?
It is $295 full price. And so we'll have 25% off of that.
Well, thank you for that. I appreciate it. I think many people will learn and grow from this, including myself. I'm just saying, listen, we need to start now. Let's not wait until it's hard to make these decisions, right? Because we just keep accumulating. The older we get, the more we accumulate. So I'm grateful for you, Jeannine. I think that it's extremely beneficial. Is there one quick takeaway if someone's just tuning in that you want to share before we close our program today?
Well, my little bite-sized tip of advice is always keep the best, let go of the rest. So keep things on a scale of 1 to 10, only if it's an 8, 9, or 10. 7 or below, let it go.
Yep. And everything's not a 10.
That's right.
All right. Thank you for tuning into Next Steps for Seniors, Conversations on Aging. And don't forget, the next steps can absolutely be the best steps. Be blessed today.